So for your audience sake, I want to explain what Juvent is real quick. It's a platform that's about 2 feet square, and you stand on it for about 10 to 20 minutes a day. And some people might call it vibration, and that's not, I get that, but it's very different. We call it micro impact. And it's very different than what other plates are that are vibrating.
This is not a biohack. We're addressing a bio lack.
When you're on a Juvent, your muscles elicit a response. And that response has 3 or 4 clinical relevant improvements. One is lymphatic circulation, blood circulation, but also allows the muscle to kind of reset itself. So bones are your immune system.
Yeah.
So if you're going to try to be healthy without giving the skeletal system everything it needs, you're chasing your tail.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Hi guys, welcome back to another Beyond Biohacking Brother episode where we explore everything about longevity, health, biohacking, and beyond. And today we have the great honor and pleasure of having Peter Simonson. Peter is the pioneer and CEO and president behind Juvent, which is a micro-impact therapy device designed to nourish bones, enhance joint health, activate stem cells, improve circulation, and support detoxification. Wow. So, Peter, thank you very much for coming out and sitting with us today.
Hey,
and I believe I forgot one more piece of your bio. It was pretty long, but I was trying to keep everything that was most important. I think you invented something else.
Yeah, no problem. So before getting into Juvent, I invented one of the world's top-selling spinal implant systems for doing spinal surgery. So everything from fixating the bone to treating complex deformities. And so part of that was exposing me to kind of how the system works. And there was a technology that was in our OR that you'd see a lot for enhanced fusion. And there was a guy behind that.
Okay.
Later down the road, that guy's name was Jack Ryaby. And Jack Ryaby was going after, instead of site-specific post-surgery fusion, the holy grail, which would be osteoporosis. So he put together, a very smart guy, put it all together, and that was the company Juvent. The problem is, Jack died, and the company went in dormancy. And so about 12 years ago, my brother and I, but much like you guys worked together.
Yeah. Very cool.
We were putting together what would now be called a functional medicine clinic. And we were way ahead of our time. No one knew what the hell we were talking about. But part of it was investigating all these technologies. Okay. And so we came across this Juvent, which was dormant. But we knew Jack Ryaby's other companies, and we were very excited about it. So we'd spent about a month doing due diligence. And I realized, I said, this science is strong. I mean, there's 90 plus papers. I mean, the funding, they had $40 million of research. And
oh, wow, the funding and research was already there.
Absolutely. And we picked up the project and really saved it from obscurity, I think. That would be the way to do it. And I actually did the math. I said to my brother, I said, Rush, with the clinic, we can help a couple thousand patients. If this technology, we can reverse osteoporosis, which was what their goal,
right?
We can help 40 million people. So
there's 40 million Americans with bone osteoporosis.
Absolutely. It's one of the top 10 diseases in the world in terms of economic impact, however you want to measure those metrics. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I said, let's just stop the clinic and just do this. And what we didn't realize was osteoporosis was the tip of the iceberg. And our first clue was when we were doing the due diligence, my mother, by coincidence, had a pelvic fracture at age 76. She was 78 at the time. And the pelvic fracture was a non-union, which is one of the most, it's on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10 on pain. And it's hard to address. And we borrowed a platform from an osteoporosis patient to evaluate this while we were reviewing the literature. So we said, Mom, what the heck, try it. So my mom was literally...
So this wasn't what caused you to find it. You had already found it, but then you're like, let me try it on my mother.
Exactly.
Wow.
And she was basically getting ready to go to a nursing home because she was in so much pain. She was down, most of the day, the vast majority of the day, and on painkillers. And so she gets on this thing in about 2 weeks. She's up with no cane and no pain. And we were like, wow.
Within 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Now, The platform was on loan. We had to send it back. And she went right back down. Wow. And so a couple of weeks later, my mom calls me up and she says, Peter, I don't know what you're going to do with that company, but I need one of those platforms. I could hear it in her voice, and she is not a wimp. Mm-hmm. So I went, Mom, let me see if I can find you one. The company, they're not in operation anymore. And I scoured eBay. It took me like 2 or 3 weeks of searching. And I found one up in Canada of a guy's mom died. He had no idea what it does. And I said, I'll take it. Mm-hmm. And then I got it down. The rest is history. My mom just celebrated her 91st birthday. She's independent, lives in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a swimming pool. And she's not going into a nursing home. I mean, she's like, no. And that was our first clue. It turns out when we got deeper into it, the clinicians in Australia were using it for pelvic non-unions. And they were, oh yeah, mate, that works all the time, So, but the point is, it was our first clue that this is way more than Jack Ryby's original mission statement. Right. And so from that standpoint, we've tried to pioneer and to that degree, I'll take a little credit for it, but of taking it beyond its original goal.
So what are the clinical studies that support the effectiveness of Juvent's micro-impact device?
So we see
for bone health and overall,
we see an attenuation of a lot of things, and we'll talk about that later. But the original clinical research was focused around osteoporosis, and so we have studies on that are positive. Mission accomplished in that regard. We have some that are ambiguous, but there's kind of a fun backstory if you want to put on your tinfoil hat. It's a little crazy, but either way. Then the other indications were balance improvement and lymphatic flow for reducing lower limb edema. And now, is that the extent of what Juvent helps? Not even close. Right. But you understand, in order to make a claim, you have to do a clinical trial. So, and we'll talk about that, where it fits and where it doesn't fit. But we see so many indications, people claiming benefits. We'll call it anecdotal. I can't make medical claims and say that categorically because, that's a tall order. But we can quote the people and the stories. And we can also talk about the connections we would see, the possible mechanisms of action.
Right. But wait, I thought that the research was backed up by NASA, Cleveland Clinic, National Institute of Health. I forgot which ones.
Absolutely. So the team they put together, Jack was a smart guy, and he put together some really established players. So they're U.S. Army funded a study, NASA funded a study, other clinics, and we've worked with other ones around. They've used it clinically and were studied. We also have a kind of a research arm that will build special platforms with certain parameters of measuring for different university studies. And these are things that will come out years from now, but we help promote that as well. Right. And we work with some of the most, when I designed the spinal implant system, I worked with some of the top orthopedic surgeons in the world, and both on the technical side, but also on the research side. We've recruited them to be on our medical advisory board. And these are guys who are so sharp. I mean, I've worked with thousands of doctors, and they're all great. The doctors have to be pretty smart. There's other ones that are just on a whole other level. And these are the ones we've had team up with us in Juvent. Okay. And they've done literature dives deeper than you can imagine. One of our medical advisory board member was the chairman of the editor of the Mayo Clinic newsletter for 16 years. He's licensed in 3 specialties. And you talk about doing a deep dive. These guys go deep. They challenge you. It's great. We love it. But the good news is the science is strong. The clinical validation will be going on for another 100 years.
Right, and it's only getting better, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Right. So what would you say, if Juvent, I would say, is considered the ultimate bone vitamin, and I think you actually coined the term Vitakin. I would love for Carlos to see.
I like how he said it, in our previous, when we had a conversation, this is not a biohack, we're addressing a bio lack.
Absolutely.
I like which I really like how you
post that. It's probably very significant. So for
I don't think people really understand the value of bone and the detriment of bone loss over time, right? Because bone is not only just for structure, but it's also a metabolic asset. Right?
We're gonna show it slide on that. We're gonna
it's interesting. So for your audience sake, I want to explain what Juvent is real quick. It's a platform that's about 2 feet square, and you stand on it for about 10 to 20 minutes a day, and some people might call it vibration, and that's not, I get that. but it's very different. We call it micro impact. And it's very different than what other plates are that are vibrating with high energy. When you get on a Juvent, you are categorically underwhelmed. You get on it and you're like, that's it?
Yeah, I remember when you said that.
I
can't feel it. You can be on a call and nobody will ever notice you're on it.
And the reason behind that, we'll talk probably a little bit later on that, is safety, safety, safety. Yeah. And the elegance is the software. The software will optimize itself for each person each time. And there was a PhD on the research team, got 3 patents on that alone. And that's not easy to do. And I'm an engineer, I know this. It's a sub-branch called controls engineering. Okay. And it's a body of math that most engineers don't ever want to
So it really is calibrating that, because it takes about 12 seconds to get my resonance, and it's just a technical question, because I put my dog on it. Yeah. So does it get the resonance for both of us and calibrates it so we're both getting the stimulation?
Yeah, so what it does is, so resonance, for the people who may not know what that term is, it's a phenomena in nature that's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And the best example of resonance, they'll teach you in a basics physics book, is when you push a child on a swing. When that swing comes back, it's a certain time period. And that's based off one parameter, the length of the swing. Okay. Not the weight, but the length. And so when you push her, you give her a gentle push, you give her another gentle push. And what you've done is found the resonance of that swing. So with a small amount of energy, you can give her a swing, and that's great.
It's almost like conserving energy. You're becoming very efficient.
Absolutely. I don't need to yell if I know where you hear.
Right.
I don't need a lot of energy if I know what I'm doing, if that makes sense. Now, that's what Juvent's doing. So imagine walking up to a child on a swing and you're blind.
Okay.
Then you would give her a push, you'd feel it. Oh, okay, I got it. And then in about 12 seconds, you'd find resonance. Okay. Well, that's what Juvent's doing. It's that 12 seconds, it's moving you and watching how you react. And then the computer's calculating, okay, bam, we got resonance.
And that resonance is made to give the specific G-forces to cause the bone density.
Well, the G-forces...
Well, let's not get into that. We can get into that after. I don't want to throw you off.
I want to explain one thing. It's interesting. What Juvent does is the equivalent of a father pushing his daughter on the swing.
Yes.
Okay, now imagine walking up to the girl with your eyes closed and pounding your fists out as hard as you can and beating the shit out of her. Okay?
That's a good example. Okay.
You're definitely not going to get a second date.
That's what other platforms are doing.
Okay. Yeah.
They're throwing high energy, uncontrolled, and they'll actually make the claim, we swing girls, we swing them higher than you do. Well, but you got to ignore that she's crying, bruised, and bleeding.
We'll get into them. Let's leave that one for later.
I just wanted to bring that together.
But that made complete.
At MHI, we're focused on longevity. And as we age, we begin to lose our bone density, our stem cell production, and detoxification abilities, among many other things. And that's why we're excited to introduce you to the Juvent Micro Impact Platform.
The Juvent platform provides low magnitude mechanical stimulation for increased stem cell production, bone density, and enhanced lymphatic drainage. Juvent has been used by some of the most technological institutes in the world. This non-invasive, easy-to-use technology supports your body's natural healing and regenerative processes.
Make sure to visit the MHI Recommend section on our website to learn more and get your exclusive discount today. Or simply give us a call and we'll point you in the right direction.
For now, stay healthy
and God bless.
Sense.
That makes sense. And so that's why Juvent is not just different, it's very different. Okay. And so that's what the science dictates. And so the big difference is it's safe and effective and convenient. Those are 3 things that are hard to do.
Safe, effective, and convenient.
You got it. So
that's what we do. So show us the slide on the Vitakin, and I don't know if this one relates to maybe explaining that we're metabolic, not structural. That bone is metabolic, not structural.
Yes, I'm going to start with a bit of a trick question.
Okay.
And it's a trick question that fools some really, really smart people.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to share a story. I was having coffee with a professor of orthopedics at a major university in Florida, and fellowship trained in spine surgery. I've known him for many, many years. And I asked him the question. I said, what is the primary role of the skeletal system? And he answered, well, hold us up.
Structural.
And I kind of just laughed. I went, here, this guy who's really should know better got the answer wrong.
Right.
That's not the right answer. So let's stay tuned. So we're going to put a slide up on here that will help us understand it. We think of it as a structural organ system.
Yes.
Its real functions are metabolic. That's way above the list.
Which is counterintuitive, right? Like most
Very
people.
much so, because the skeleton, every bone is an organ. The skeleton is an organ system.
Yeah.
We have about 12, depending how you want to catalog them. And in my opinion, and I have fun arguing with all the doctors in the world, it's fun, that it's the second most important organ in the body. Now, what's first? The brain. Everyone's fighting for second. Brain's number one. And a cardiologist will tell you the heart, he goes on and on. So metabolically, bone produces cells, okay, stem cells.
Right.
And it produces
blood cells,
really...
white cells, leukocyte, all of it.
Yeah, that's correct. So let's categorically call them liquids and solids. Okay, the liquids would be called hemopoetics. That's blood for red blood cells for oxygen transport, platelets for stopping bleeding, but also white blood cells for our immune system. So bones are your immune system.
Yeah.
And this is why I postulated in COVID this would help COVID patients, and I was right.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of a fun story. If we have time, we'll talk about that. Okay. And I didn't. And it's out, fast forward, it's now been added to FLCCC's protocol. They've done enough research and done enough experience. It's now on their protocol for long COVID and vaccine injuries.
What's FCC?
FLCCC. And so...
What does it stand for?
That's one of the leading organizations helping COVID.
Okay.
And so, long story short, our bones are our immune system.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other stem cells that bone produces are called mesenchymal, so let's call those solids, okay? And they provide structural, these cells can be differentiated to become, used to be 5 things, now we're up to 8 that we know of. So my slide actually needs to be updated, but it's bone, muscle, fat, cartilage, and connective tissue. Right. We now know it also does endothelial tissue that lines our blood cells, nerve tissue, and liver tissue.
And it even stimulates proteins like osteocalcium, which regulate your glucose and
that's a more a hormone rather than a stem cell.
Right.
Okay. Now, mesenchymal stem cells, that's the structural type. On animal studies and in human papers, Juvent with microimpact increases that production by 43 to 46%.
Wow.
Now,
this was in mice or rats?
This was they did it in rodents and then tested in humans. Right. Okay, so it was
tested in humans. Okay, and even better.
So those cells are well known in the scientific literature to be anti-inflammatory. So what is a jointitis? Arthro means a joint. Itis means a swelling. Okay. And so if you have producing more stem cells to do repair work, one of the first stages is anti-inflammation. Mm-hmm. And so that's why we feel that why patients are describing my itises are better. Right. There's osteoarthritis, psoriatic arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and gout. Right. Okay. And it was funny. I did a podcast with Steve Gundry, and Steve Gundry.
Yeah, I saw it.
He, I worked with him we were talking for several months. He did a deep dive, to his credit, and he found a paper to showing that the blood cells it produces, hemopoetics, they're anti-inflammatory too. Look at that. So it's fun working with top people because you learn things. You know what I mean? And so that's a pretty big function of cells. Let's call that now.
Which, by the way, I like to add on that we interviewed Christian Drapeau, the CEO and founder of StemRegen. Okay. And when he says the doctor tells you, hey, go home and rest, and you recover, you don't recover because you're just sleeping. The rest comes from your body releasing these stem cells into circulation and regenerating your body.
Yeah, the way he said it was cool because he's medicine still has this black box where we just don't know how our body
and that's heals. Exactly. And you see, right? That's the fun part because it's funny when you study the body and you get to a point of humility. Yeah. And you've just got to say, we don't know. And you know what? My ego's not that big. I say I don't know a lot. And but it's funny, when I would hire sales reps to sell to spine surgeons, the first thing I'd tell them back in that day, I'd say, you better learn to say, I don't know. Because that's an honest answer. Don't bullshit.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. That's,
when he says, you put a cast on a child, you don't give them medication. You just put a cast and let time go and it heals itself. What's the black box? How do we heal? Stem cells that are derived from bone.
Right. But see, now, real quickly, just a side note, that I want to give you a bigger point, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
One of the things we see all the time are pro athletes tell us when they use Juvent, they have a reduction in what they call DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, which is the recovery.
Yes.
Now, we have talked about it more as a kind of a chemical flushing and a reset with circulation, but you know what? He might be right because of the stem cell production.
Yeah.
You know, we don't, that's what's called the mechanism of action.
Yeah. So what you're thinking the DOMS improves because of the stem cell increase in circulation?
That's news to me. So that he might be right on that. Okay?
It sounds interesting.
But what I'm saying is we kind of attributed it to, because we know there's a chemical, so basically what happens when you're on a Juvent, your muscles elicit a response, and that response has 3 or 4 clinical relevant improvements. One is lymphatic circulation, blood circulation, but also allows the muscle to kind of reset itself. They used to think it was lactic acid. That's been disproven. I don't get in that argument.
Right.
Okay, but it's largely the muscle has a way of non-damaging level, kind of chemically reset itself. Now, is that maybe that's another thing I hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
And so my point is, we don't fully understand the mechanisms of action. That doesn't mean we can't use it.
Correct. Right. That we can't get the benefit.
Scott Bowden, who's one of the top orthopedic researchers in the world, he mentioned when I was talking with him in Atlanta, he's the vice chairman of orthopedics at Emory. And he said, mechanism of action is, you like to know it, but you don't technically need to. In fact, several drugs have been approved where they don't actually know why they work, but they know that they're safe and effective. So I don't get too hung up on it. I'd like to know and I want to know, but at the same time, it's not like we can't use it. Because if something is safe, it's low reasonable cost, and is not displacing a known therapy, that's the Holy Trinity. In a that's a metaphor, but that's the Trinity of things you want to look for before you try something new. But if it doesn't violate any of those, try it.
Yeah.
100%. We don't understand sleep yet, guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there anybody here that wouldn't say you sleep?
And there's many books on sleep, but nobody knows how we're sleeping.
Absolutely. Okay, so back to our list.
Let's go back to it.
Okay, now, the third big function of bone is actually, it's an endocrine organ. In all but name, it's part of the endocrine system. This is the point you were talking about.
Huge. Which is actually, osteocalcin is actually a protein that behaves like a hormone, but originally is a protein. But it shows that it really regulates glucose and insulin sensitivity.
And that was actually only acknowledged, I think, in a 2010 paper from Columbia University. They knew that there was a monologue between the pancreas and bone, but they actually now know it's a dialogue. They two influence each other. And what's funny, in a lot of literature, I read a lot of papers, you see all these papers referencing how these things affect bone. Right. Yeah. But I think the big thing everyone's missing, in my gut, is bone's affecting them. Right.